Hello, welcome to week 5 of Marketing Metrics and Analytics, Marketing 6336. The topics we'll cover this week are centered around customer segmentation. First, we'll define it. Second, we will also look at what are some of the main metrics to analyze in customer segmentation, how to take those metrics and build out different types of analytics to drive marketing strategy. Then we will cover the topic around customer journey mapping, and then A/B multivariate testing and analytics. First, let's define customer market segmentation. Market segmentation is the subdividing of a market into distinct subsets of customers. Their members are different between segments but similar within. So each individual has their own individual attributes, but they have common variables and attributes or characteristics in their group. Differentiating your product and marketing efforts to meet the needs of different segments, that is, applying the marketing concept to market segmentation. As you see there in the far right graphic, there are 4 different types of attributes and characteristics you can combine to build out a customer segment: demographic, behavioral, psychographic, and geographic. When you start looking at the different types of variables and considerations to build out your segment, you want to look at segmentation characteristics. There are bases and there are descriptors. Bases are characteristics that tell us why segments differ, such as the needs of that segment, their preferences, decision processes, and overall behavioral type of considerations. Descriptors are more characteristics that help us find and reach segments, such as in B2B marketing, industry, the size of the business, the location, overall organizational structure, and from a consumer market perspective, demographic information or information about the consumer, such as age and income, education level, profession, lifestyle, media habits, and others. When you're looking at business markets, you have macro segmentation and micro segmentation. Macro is going to look at a business at a higher level. The size of the organization, how many employees they have, or is it a large, medium, or small business based on how much market share they have, how much revenue they generate amongst their industry. The geographical location, is it a local business, national, is it worldwide, global? Things you want to consider whenever you're doing business-to-business marketing analytics. In the industrial sector, are they in retail, engineering, finance, healthcare? And then the end market served. What is the overall business you are working with, their end users, defined product or service? So at a macro level, what you want to do is identify those types of variables. When you're looking at segmenting, perhaps the example I can give you is, let's say you are an HR software company and you're looking to partner with other businesses to implement and have them purchase your HR service and software. Well, what kind of industry do you want to go to? What type of business do you want to go to? Large, medium, or small? Do you want to target and market towards local businesses, national, worldwide? Can your business handle a worldwide business? And at the end of the day, what type of employee base are you wanting to work with in those different industries? So things of that nature. Micro-segmentation. Variables to consider are choice criteria, structure of the decision-making unit, decision-making process, and overall, the rest of this really does mean how do they purchase and how do they overall make their decisions in their organization. You want to learn more about who are the decision makers, who do you market to, how do you segment and target marketing towards the right individuals in the business to provide the overall value of your business to them from a business perspective. More about different types of basis and descriptors. So basis, again, is all about behavioral metrics. In web analytics, it's all about understanding your consumer behavior, how they go online, how they navigate, how they shop or browse a website, how they interact with digital marketing mediums. So it's all about identifying the needs, the benefits, and overall, what is it about the behavior of your consumer you need to identify. From a descriptive perspective, on a consumer level, various things you can find out. age, income, marital status, family type and size, gender, social class, etc. You can build this out to target your marketing towards specific age groups or genders or individuals in certain demographics of their lifestyle. Are they married? Are they single? Targeting families, things of that nature. And you can find that out based on your own profile information about your consumer or third party data. Psychographics, right? Psychographics about their values, their customs. And you can define this based on how they navigate your website. For example, if you're a retailer, you can probably understand that someone is a outdoor lifestyle enthusiast if they go and browse and either purchase products that are geared towards outdoor sports versus someone who may have an affinity to buy something else. And their behavior. How often is this user or visitor or customer engaged with your brand? Are they a passive? Are they a regular, loyal customer? So you want to understand that to be able to segment out to those who are more loyal versus passive versus the repeat customer. And then decision-making processes too. Are they someone who's price sensitive? Is it a segment that's more about the quality and value of a product? Are they more of an impulse buyer? Things of that nature. And then media patterns. You have to understand and segment to your customers based on what digital marketing platform they interact with you on. Is it through Google search? Is it through social media? Is it through your website directly? Is it through referrals or blogs? Those are things you're going to want to understand to build out groups or segments around that. So segmentation at its core is what I just defined, but when you get down to web customer segmentation, it gets a little bit more narrow. Marketing often draws on the concepts of segmentation, targeting, and positioning in order to understand and direct marketing activities. And while this is a classic triple threat combination, it's useful in a wide array of marketing activities. It's important to note that user segmentation and market segmentation are applied in somewhat different ways in the digital customer journey than traditional journey. Marketers are always trying to convey the appropriate message to the right group. But in digital marketing, it's more difficult to assess buyer behavior and understand their journey, and therefore it's harder to segment to your audience and target your message. The reason why it's more difficult in digital marketing is because consumer behavior can change often. The mechanisms into which they navigate certain websites, or if they choose one social media channel over another, behavior can change often. So you have to keep on top of your analytics to understand the behavior, to understand how to continuously market to them. So in Google, it's under the audience pillar of the analytics suite. It's audience segmentation. Audience segmentation is when you divide your audience into different groups based on various criteria, such as demographics and media use. Digital marketers segment audiences as a key part of targeted marketing strategy. Audience segmentation is crucial in the digital sphere because consumers are more empowered than ever. Not only that, they are making purchase decisions at a faster rate than ever before. So the challenge for digital marketers is to understand how to catch them in the process of the buying decision. To do this, they need to do everything they can to understand the way their audience thinks and behaves. So let's take a look at this chart from left to right. As you can see here, mass marketing. Traditional marketing is you just send out an advertisement to everybody and anybody who can get awareness to your marketing campaign. And that's still valid today. If you have a very generic or general marketing campaign that you want to send out to everyone, that's fine. Especially if you have a very global use for your business, or you're trying to get more awareness to a wide variety of people, that's fine. But then when you start doing that, it takes time and analytics trends to start saying, who are my different segments now? What are my higher level market segments I can start building out to start marketing to? And their market segmentation can again be based on demographics, based on regionality, depends what you want to do. But then you go a step further and say, based on regionality or demographics or some type of other criteria, let's look at the behavior of these individuals. And in web analytics, it's about how often they visit your website or how often they interact with your media. So it's about usage and frequency. It's about where they go, where they bounce off your website, and starting to build out, who does convert and who doesn't. So you have different types of audiences, such as engage encourage, or evacuate. Your engage audience are the ones that are more loyal. They're the ones that are going to be more have an affinity to shop with you or go to your website and to interact with your marketing efforts. So you know that they're a little bit easier to market to, but also you want to keep fresh content tailored to them to keep them interested and keep coming back to your website. We'll skip encourage for a minute and we'll talk about evacuate. The evacuate audience are the ones that are going to bounce more often, are going to be hardly the ones that interact with you in your marketing efforts. So those are the ones that are a little bit more challenging to hook into and find out a way to market to them. But you can still do it, but they're a little more challenging to be a little more creative, understand their behavior better, and really build out targeted marketing strategies to bring them in. The area where you can really optimize and to grow with an audience even more potential and more incremental sales impact or incremental value to your company is that encourage audience. The encourage audience is the one that's almost there, right? They're on the fence. They need a little bit more persuasion. They need a little bit more add-on value to interact and convert into a shopper or whatever you're trying to have them do. They already have some preliminary interest, so what you need to do is find those right targeted efforts. Target them with an additional promotion or additional content to learn about who you are, to basically trust and overall feel good about making a conversion with you. And then you have occasion-based targeting. Once you understand the different behaviors of your customers, then you absolutely in digital marketing need to understand where do they go, how do they find you, but also not only how they found you, but how do they continue to interact with you. Is it social media? Is it through search? And also what type of device as well, right? Are they more of a mobile audience versus desktop versus tablet? And then ultimately goes down to one-to-one engagement. Even though you're doing segmentation, you can still build out a targeted group marketing effort that still feels, though, to the end user a personalized experience because you're still targeting to them based on a very common set of criteria. So web customer segmentation, what you end up doing before you build out these groups of individuals, or excuse me, groups of targeted segments, is you have to build something called buyer persona. You've probably heard the term buyer persona floating around in business and in marketing circles and may have wondered what it was. A buyer persona is a description of your ideal customer. Creating a few different buyer personas can help you understand your audience better in order to target lead and sales strategies and segment your audience. When creating a buyer persona template, you'll want to essentially visualize whom the people are to most likely purchase your goods and services. And then the following slide, which we're going to look at, are some questions to consider as you build out those personas for your ideal customer. Your ideal customer, all right, is all about based on trends. It takes time a little bit to understand who is that buyer persona. Now, part of it you're already going to know based on the product or service that you offer. Okay, the product or service that you offer, the business that you're in already has probably a targeted audience in mind. So you can either go with that as a starting place, or if you have a more of a wide open business or service that can go towards a wide variety of individuals, then you have to start looking at behavioral metrics, other dynamics. So starter questions on their demographic information. Is this buyer persona going to be someone in a particular age group? Is it a gender, income level, education level, location? You know, if it's a professional type thing, what is it about that particular profession, right? Values and fears. What do you know about this customer based on their navigation and interaction? What types of things do you think they stand for? Belief systems and values. Where are they? Okay. How do you communicate with them? Not just where they're localized, but how do they communicate with you and how do you communicate with them? Is this a buyer that's going to be way more social media heavy or someone that's going to be way more into news articles and finding your information based on referrals, things of that nature? Okay. So what you end up doing is you build out those personas, okay, and then you build them out into different segments, okay. Let's say you have 4 different buyer personas. They each have a different age group, different gender group, perhaps, or they have different social classes, and then they have different behavioral metrics or behavioral criteria, stuff like that. These are other things you can add to those buyer personas and web customer segmentations. Again, we talked about a user type. Are they a new customer, target group, versus returning versus loyal? And ultimately what you want to do from user type is turning those new target customers into more loyal customers. So bringing them to be a new customer, but then obviously building targeted efforts to bridge them over to loyal, right? Your segments will change over time. The sample size might get bigger or smaller on each of the user types, depending on how well you do with each of those user types. Categories. What is it about these individuals that you're trying to market to them? What category? What content? Demographics. We talked about that. Source. Again, using Google Analytics or another analytics software to say, how do we interact with them? Where do they find us? But also, how do they want to continue to be interacted with? Referrals, reviews, forums, search, social media, device, and behavioral. And more about your user behavior, right? So these are examples of, you can segment them out into different types of decision-making processes. Price conscious, needs proof, risk adverse, smart, persuadable, or I'll get it later. Your needs proof and risk adverse are going to be the more challenging people, the ones that are going to be harder to convert. They are worth the time, though, and effort if you can build out some targeted marketing efforts and content or additional value to get them to truly believe into your brand or service, or find a mechanism to really provide that personalized content to speak to them. Your smart is going to be the ones that are a little more savvy, a little bit more understanding of what you're all about. So you don't have to spend as much time maybe providing additional value or promotions or whatever to convert them. But what you need to do, though, is ensure you have really good content so they can believe into what they're reading or seeing. Persuadable is more about those who are on the fence again, that more encourage audience we talked about earlier. And then the I'll get it later, the more passive buyer, the one that needs to be reminded, with an abandoned cart email, the one that needs to be reminded about the value at the checkout, or some kind of pop-up or something from a web experience perspective to keep them going through that checkout process. So considerations, after you kind of build out these different criteria and start to look at your different audiences, here are some other things that you need to understand about how to make your segmentation analytics work, right? First, articulate a strategic rationale for the segmentation. Why are we segmenting this market, okay? Why are we doing this? Why are we building out this criteria? What end goal do we have? What is our ultimate outcome we're looking to achieve? Strategic goal by building out this or multiple segments. Number two, select a set of needs-based segmentation variables most useful for achieving those strategic goals. What is going to be that key hook, the key value proposition that you're going to develop in your marketing strategy towards that segment? You're going to want to speak directly towards the need and overall scope of what the customers are going to value out of your marketing. Number three, select a cluster analysis procedure for aggregating or disaggregating customers into segments. Okay. Number four, group customers into a defined number of different segments. You don't want any customers to really overlap. Now, you can have some overlap here and there, but you really want to, kind of group your segments into very defined numbers of segments that are also tangible. You don't want to have too many segments to where you have too much to market and too much to analyze. You don't want to get too narrow to where you're missing out on learning new things when you market over time. So you'll define the right number based on how many customers you have and the overall scope of your business. Number five, choose the segments that will best serve the firm's strategy, given its capabilities and the likely reaction of competitors. Do not forget the importance of what you're doing is, if you're segmenting and targeting to a particular audience, so are your competitors. So find the way to differentiate your analytics or differentiate your marketing strategy from your competition. So the funnel of segmentation, we always go back to the funnel approach in our class. And in this class topic this week, it's all about where in this segmentation do we go and spend more of our time analyzing our consumers. Well, branded content's one thing. This is all about what is the content you're targeting with, but you really don't learn more about what to target as far as the content goes until you get really down into here, the decision-making process. Yes, again, exploration. How do they find you? Where do they come from? That tells you what channel to market on to get more exposure. Is it search? Is it social networks, blogs? You learn that over time. You learn that based on overall just traffic growth, right? Who's coming to your site from that source. But where you truly want to understand how to segment best your audience is in the behavior metrics, the decision-making process. Once they're there, what is it about that particular user and segment of users that you need to understand? How long they're on your site, how passive or not passive are they? Are they returning? Do they come often? Are they a one-time user and leave? That's the area where you spend most of your time in web analytics is on behavior. And overall, if you do it right and you do your targeted marketing efforts based on behavioral metrics, you get them to build an advocacy for your brand after they convert. So different things you can look at in Google Analytics as far as the different criteria and what we call dimensions, right? Variables, demographics, location, behavior, devices, and channels. What's important to know is that you can create both user and session segments using metrics like page views and dimensions such as age. You can combine both the characteristics, the basis type, the descriptor type criteria, age, location, device type, along with their behavioral metrics. So what you really want to do in web analytics is have the skill set to take the descriptor kind of criteria of a user group, age, location, gender, and all that, and put that together with behavioral and say, how does this demographic interact with our website based on how often they visit, how often they bounce, percentages, the funnel, all that kind of thing, because that's how you truly build out from an analytics perspective and tell that story about user behavior. Here's just another list of key data points to consider in Google Analytics when building out your customer segmentation. Remember your traffic source. Perhaps you're analyzing your paid search and paid advertising budget and the analytics. Well, you can see about who are we targeting with our paid advertising, right? If we have a budget to work with, well, let's talk about we're targeting these individuals in this segment, and this is working or not working. You can build out your SCM strategies as well, which we'll talk about next week in SCM. Types of visitors, location, content viewed. Where do they go on your website? Are they people who are going to be more interested in looking at your homepage versus a product page versus a category page? In the taxonomy or navigation of your website, where do they spend most of their time? Where do they also leave the most too? That tells you how to build out a good web design, right? You can take those analytics and insights back and take that to your web design team and say, you know what? People are spending a lot of time on the homepage or this landing page, but leaving without converting. We need to do something different with the design or what's on this page, or maybe the marketing offer as well with merchandising or whoever you're working with. Perhaps you're seeing a lot of bounce rates just on the homepage. Maybe your navigation and they can't find where to go next. So there's a wide variety of UX or what we call user experience things you can take with that information as well. So customer segmentation, return versus new. I do encourage you to look at this cohort analysis. It takes a little bit further by looking at not just your usage and how many people visit your site, but just like this as well, you can look at the mix between new users and returning users and their bounce rates, okay? So what you can see is that new users tend to bounce higher than return users, right? Probably not uncommon because new users are new to your site and don't really build that affinity yet. What you may want to do is say, how do I build a strategy to decrease the bounce rate of my new users and actually increase them into becoming returning users, right? You want more people to come back to your site, but also not bounce. This is a viewpoint you can build in Google Analytics to build strategies around that. And maybe your KPI or metric for right now is bounce rate. The less you reduce the bounce rate, the more of a chance they're going to convert, correct? So Google Analytics Advanced Customer Segmentation. Key features to keep in mind. View all of your Google Analytics standard and custom reports for users and visit that match specific criteria. What works for you on your website may differ from another website. So you have to understand what are those custom reports and what are those KPIs we care about. Is our metric bounce rate because we're seeing too many people leave? Or if we have a healthy bounce rate based on industry, based on trends, well, what is the next thing we want to look at? If they're not leaving though, but still not converting, what is the problem? Create custom segments with new to easy user interface that will guide you through 5 types of custom segments: demographics, technology, behavior, data first visit, and traffic sources, and include all of these other data variables such as demographic, and overall ensure that your analytic users know where to go and where to find these custom segments in the analytics suite. So we're going to stop there for a minute, and that's just kind of a high level. How do you really build out segmentation? You start with looking at your users and profiles, and you start looking at the commonalities, right, on their demographic information, behavioral metrics, psychographic, and obviously you can also look at geographic. When you build out your segments, the next thing you're able to do from a true digital marketing perspective is something called customer journey mapping and building. Just an example here. Here's a customer map, right? And this again is that funnel, all right? So looking at that customer map, it's all about creating awareness, interest, the consideration for the buyer or customer, the intent, they evaluate the product, then they make their purchase decision and loyalty. So let's say you're at this customer map, this gentleman's just saying, you are here, right? And she's just saying, actually, I'm just looking for the bathroom. So that's just a funny way of just looking at a customer not really interested in a product, they're just looking for the bathroom. That's just a funny cartoon I thought I'd throw in there. But at the end of the day, what you're doing from a customer journey perspective is taking them through that funnel, right? The customer map, being aware of your site, being aware of your products and services, and then going all the way down the funnel to conversion. Let's define what is a customer journey. A customer journey is the complete experience a customer has with an organization. It encompasses all customer interactions across all channels, devices, and touch points through the entire stage of the customer lifecycle, from awareness to loyalty. What it really is saying is that you start to build out what touch points, whether it's starting with a social media post, then going to an email blast, then going to an ad on a news website, and how do you build that interactive point with the consumer based on what are their preferred methods of communication. Why we need customer journey strategies? Well, a study shows there are 3 key reasons why they're important. From a survey from this study of many companies, ones that had a formal customer journey program versus those that did not, 25% of the companies with a customer journey program saw a greater return on marketing investment. What this means is that when they knew exactly where to market, on what digital media channel, digital marketing channel, and at the right time, and at the right place with customers to engage with them, to get them interested in the business or service, they found that their marketing spend and advertising was a lot more valuable, and the technology they implemented and the resources they put behind those different channels had a greater return on marketing investment. Then what you can also do, as you can see here, that 21.2% of companies with a program could actually impact their customer service costs. Now, believe it or not, it's not just about marketing at the right place at the right time and customer journey mapping to your customers to build top line sales and new customer acquisition goals, all very important marketing metrics, but you could actually impact your P&L, your overhead costs, your resource costs by decreasing the amount of customer service complaints, product returns, stuff like that, because you're making your customers happy. You're providing them a communication at the right time in the right place for the product and the service that they want, and generally customers are happier and have less likely a reason to have a complaint with customer service or a need to return their product. So you actually increase your profitability in that aspect as well. So it's something important to keep in mind. And the last aspect there, the companies that nowadays that have a formal customer journey program see a much better average sales cycle, right? They see a much better average order value. They see a much better sales lift over time because those loyal customers are coming back to buy more and buy more. So let's take an example of a customer journey building program, a case study. An Aberdeen Group research paper found that companies with a formal customer journey program experience year-over-year growth that includes the following. So based on the study, only 36% of companies have a formal program. So what it's saying is a little over 1/3 of most companies out there that they surveyed have a formal journey program. So it means there's a big gap in the digital marketing industry where 2/3 or more, depending on your industry, have a lack of a customer journey program. Those that do have it, though, have an 18 times faster average sales cycle. They're going to increase the sales velocity and revenue attribution a lot faster. 56 more likely to have cross-sell or upsell revenue. So when you're personalizing the experience, perhaps it's also that add-on value, right? If you're buying that laptop, make sure you buy that laptop charger. If you're buying the Apple MacBook, get the Apple headphones with it, right? Those kinds of things. So you can cross-sell, upsell. Perhaps you're a services type company. You can add on those additional services with a more personalized experience and customer journey experience. They improve their customer service costs like 10 times, as I told you before. They can actually get better customer referrals, 5 times greater revenue. So think about that. If you have a great personalized customer journey experience yourself as a consumer, the company targets you with a great marketing offer in the mechanism you prefer, such as, let's say, mobile app, push notification, or they got you with an email that works for you, or a social media post, or a combination of all three, by the way. Customer journey building is actually saying, I'm going to start with one vehicle, marketing vehicle. Now, if that doesn't work, maybe I'll follow it up with another different marketing vehicle. That social post didn't make you click and convert, so I'm going to follow up with an email blast, and maybe that works for you. But what you do is you actually, that word of mouth, right? Word of mouth is so important in marketing. So what you're going to do is refer your friends and family and coworkers towards that business, and that actually increases the opportunity for new customers who will ultimately end up increasing loyalty for more sales. Customer journey building techniques. A common misconception is that a single customer behavior or interaction is enough to accurately pinpoint which journey stage a customer is currently in. That is incorrect. What this is that you have to look at a trend of a behavior for a single customer, right? You can segment to those customer journeys. While it looks one-to-one to the end user, that one customer, you can actually develop a customer journey map for a segment of customers with very similar behavior. Those who are more on social media, maybe you start with them first, and then if that segment goes to email next, we'll build the same targeted journey, customer marketing journey strategy, and then you can look at the individual responsiveness of that strategy. In most cases, 1 or 2 behavioral data points is not enough to accurately identify a customer's journey stage. Customers in all different stages interact and engage with content and experiences designed for all different stages, across all different channels at all different times, and in no particular order. So don't feel unmotivated if the first journey building strategy doesn't work, because remember, behavior does change. But over time, you can build the right strategies and rules. And don't forget, marketing automation is a great way for that too, to understand it. Customer journey building techniques. So here's an example of John Prospect. Okay, let's call him a customer and his behavioral activity, right? And this is that whole funnel we talked about before. Where does, John spend most of his time in his behavior when it comes to shopping? This diagram shows the behavior of an individual prospect customer, John Prospect, over a period of the previous 14 days. This prospect is in the consideration stage of the customer journey, but his behaviors occur in a completely random order and do not happen in a linear fashion from stage to stage. This is a much more realistic view of what customer behavior can look like in a given time frame as they interact with a brand. So what you're doing here is you're saying, all right, based on his behavior, he is way more likely to be in the consideration stage. Over a period of 14 days, he's landed on that consideration stage a lot more than he's gone all the way through that conversion funnel, right? So what you want to do is say, for John, I need to figure out a great strategy in that consideration phase to continue to give him the journey to go into the purchase behavior, adoption, etc., etc. Now let's talk about the topic around segmentation or cluster analysis and how to use that to build out effective A/B multivariate testing and analytics. A/B testing is also known as split testing. It's a method of website optimization in which conversion rates of 2 versions of a page, version A and version B, are compared to one another using live traffic. At the end of the day, what it means is site visitors come to your site and you group them into 2 different segments or 2 different groups and give them 2 different experiences based on the content And what you analyze is where they clicked, what they looked at. You look at different mechanisms of the site too. Do they sign up for something or whatnot? So you look at web design, you look at the marketing efforts, and truly understand what of the two experiences ended up converting those users more. So pretty straightforward. This is just an example. You have two different types of marketing messages: sign up now versus join today. You can build an A/B test strategy based on just imagery, based on the promotional offer, saying dollars off versus percent off. You could do it based on just copy. Perhaps there's a marketing, we call it call to action, a button, sign up now versus join today. You can segment your groups and to say, what? Let's say, for example, join today converted more people to join a website than sign up now. So perhaps a long-term strategy is you're going to use join today more often than sign up now. Just as an example, very basic. The common reasons for A/B testing are for the following, okay? You're solving the following metric kind of pain points for customers as well. You solve visitor pain points. Perhaps you have a way too wordy website. You have too many words on it, too much content. So your customers are finding it too confusing on where to go. Perhaps you increase the value of your navigation, your on-site search. So really you want to understand what are the pain points of your visitors and to make it a better experience for them. And then you get a much better return on investment from existing traffic. Those customers that come to your website are those users. The money that you spend on the resources to maintain your website and for the website itself and the technology, your resource cost is much more impacted with a much better experience by A/B testing those experiences that work better for those particular groups. You definitely reduce your bounce rate, right? You keep people in your site, you keep them engaged, and you keep them from bouncing out. You make low risk modifications. What this means is sometimes you just need to tweak the experience. You don't need to change the entire look and feel of your website. Perhaps you need to tweak something. And that's what an A/B test can do for you. It takes the assumptions out of the door, the opinions internally of your company, and allows the users to truly tell you based on behavioral data and metrics what is working and not working. It achieves statistically significant results. So what you also want to do is ensure you have a great A/B testing tool that uses, those 0.05, right? Your chi-square type results. They can do that for you, but what you want to do is say, the test won based on a confidence level of 90, 95%. You had enough traffic visit your site and experience this experience on an A/B test to truly say this is the winner. And obviously you can profitably redesign your website. So here's the process, right? You design something, right? A layout, an initial concept with your design team, your graphic designers. Then you take that over and you create two versions of that. Well, what you can do as the analyst in analytics is to say, well, based on trends and behaviors, competitive analysis, whatever, here's how you should lay out the two versions. Give some insights to the design team on what those two versions will look like. Hey guys, we're seeing much less bounce rate if we offer these keywords or if we go on promotion and these marketing messages or whatever, okay? They build it out, you all align. They need to devise a test plan. The test plan is going to be simply how long is the campaign, what is our winning score or metric. Usually it's conversion, but perhaps it's something else. Perhaps it's bounce rate and you're looking to reduce that. Perhaps you're looking to increase the average order value. It depends on what you're trying to do. And then you look at how long it's going to be, and then you collect data along the way, okay? This is where you kind of go in the real-time analytics. This is where you don't just set and forget an A/B test. You look at it, okay? Now you do want to wait for it to actually come to fruition, build that confidence level. Usually it's a 90 or 95% confidence level is what they say, meaning that you've had enough traffic come to that A/B test to truly get it evaluated, and so you had enough to say this is the proven track record. So for example, over time you're collecting data and then you get to that point where group A is 75% versus the 25% is group B that's ultimately converting or winning in that score metric. So what you're going to do is you're going to go with option A to actually run your further strategies and then build another test. You can keep testing. Continuous optimization is the key word in digital marketing today. To build strategy in the analytics, you want to take what worked and continue to optimize it, right? It doesn't mean to continue testing the same thing over and over. It means take what you're doing and to be competitive, Test new things out. It doesn't mean to take something though that's working and just make it different just to make it different. Take it and enhance it. It's all about continuous optimization. There are some limitations with A/B testing. A/B testing is a versatile tool, and when paired with smart experiment design and a commitment to iterative cycles of testing and redesign, it can help you make huge improvements to your site or marketing. However, it can only offer a singular viewpoint between two groups and only offer an opportunity to test and measure 2 to 4 functions, methods, or techniques. So where I'm going with this is that A/B testing alone only offers two groups. Think about your segmentation we talked about earlier in this lecture. You could have multiple segments. So you may say to yourself, well, I want to test more than just two groups. Can I do that? And the answer is yes. You do it with A/B multivariate testing. Multivariate testing at the end of the day just means multiple groups. You have to define that. How do I know how many groups is enough? Well, you start with maybe groups A, B, and C, A, B, C, and D. You don't generally do a lot more than maybe 4 to 5 groups or 6, because at some point you're going to have too much of a saturation of tests going on. You truly can't identify key winning scores because there's not enough of a traffic value to build that confidence level. Does that make sense? There's not enough people or users to test with, so you want to make sure there's a tangible amount. But multivariate testing does allow you to take your segments of groups and do more groups and test. A/B testing versus multivariate testing. As you can see, A/B testing is test different versions of a web page, splitting traffic eventually between both pages. But what you do with multivariate testing is test different elements within a single web page. Multivariate testing is ideal for high traffic websites. Multivariate again is for large groups of segments, large groups of customers. If you're a startup business, a website that's a little bit smaller, it's going to be harder to build multivariate testing. But if you're a major website, a bigger website, or bigger company, you can find a lot of value in that. So why use Google segmentation and A/B testing? How do you tie that back to Google Analytics? Using segmentation in Google Analytics offers a multitude of benefits for optimizing your website's conversion rate. The main benefits are as follows. Many people make the mistake of focusing on the wrong elements when running an A/B test. Using segmentation in Google Analytics, you can concentrate on pages with the most traffic or those that yield the most conversions. The sequencing option in your segmentation enables you to find out which pages were visited by those who made a purchase. Therefore, you'll gain a better understanding of which pages and elements you should prioritize for A/B testing. I know that was a lot to kind of just read through. What it's saying is use your traffic data from Google Analytics. If you have all of your pages tagged correctly, find out where the majority of your traffic is going, and that's the page or pages or the area of your website you want to A/B test more, because that's the let's call it like in a store, that's the aisle that you can work on to market to your customers to get to the checkout line, right? Don't waste time on pages of your website that don't get a lot of traffic. Now, what you can do though is influence more traffic to another page by linking to it, by providing a marketing banner or something to link to somewhere else on the site. But start first with your Google traffic data, where they're at on your site already, and build that's your starting place to be an effective A/B test strategist. The third bullet point, personalization is an important trend in internet marketing. Segmentation allows you to deliver personalized content to your visitors based on their characteristics. With the help of segmentation in Google Analytics, you can create individualized email marketing campaigns and unique special offers based on their buying habits. So use the segmentation analytics within Google. Where do they go? Where do they purchase? What did they purchase? The demographic information. Increase your conversion and buying habits by targeting them with that information, and build A/B tests for your target groups. Even if you're focused on one particular segment, you can A/B test within that segment to see what works for them. For an example, this is an outdoor enthusiast shopper. They buy outdoor camping gear, outdoor sports gear, and you know that this customer is on average between the age of 25 and 40. I'm making this up. Well, I want to build an A/B test to say between the ages of 25 and 32 as group A, and then 32 to 40 as group B. I want to offer different marketing content, messaging, whatever, what works different for each age group. Or you find the same age group, and then you market different content to find out what works best. So you can still A/B test within the same segment, which is very valuable. So now we go down to the kind of high level mass market segment, more of the more targeted segments, and now personalization, one to one marketing. Advertising personalization uses data points, insights into what a customer is to increase an ad's relevancy. These can be some simple insights such as basic demographic information, a more specific interest, buying intent, or behavioral patterns. Either way, it's precise one to one marketing, a brand making a customer feel they are speaking directly to them and addressing their unique needs. This is where you get very specific in your segmentation and see what works and build out strategies with your marketing automation tool for personalization. So how do you do with A/B testing? Well, the main principle behind integrating testing and personalization is you test multiple variations and launch the winners as personalization campaigns. What I'm saying is after you do several A/B or A/B multivariate tests, you take those winning campaigns, the ones that work the best, and make them more specific from a one-to-one personalization. You kind of go the 30,000 foot view down to the 100-foot view, right? You start here at the high level, find out what works up here with a sample size of audiences, and then you can start narrowing down the marketing strategy to make it more personalized. Every experience you are testing and grouping your messaging or marketing matrix is a hypothesis. So remember, when you're building an A/B test, you're building a hypothesis, right? It's the same thing as statistical testing. At the end of the day, you have an idea of what this customer or user may want to purchase or engage with. So you do that based on analytics, right? But what proves it is your test. Let's take a look at an example of a company's A/B testing matrix. What you want to do is build out a kind of visibility of the different types of tests that you want to enhance or implement for your company. So in the audiences row, they have different segments of new visitors, loyal visitors, users who only browse the women's department, those who interact with a 10% of marketing campaign, based on geography and also based on their device type, mobile and tablet. So they wanted to test different things, different campaigns. They call it butter bar, a hero image, left tile, right tile, different places on their website. And they had different hypotheses based on the segment and what they interact with, okay? And the hypothesis is the actual content or what the ultimate campaign is going to look like that they're doing, right? And the hypothesis could be, for example, in the new visitors, they have an affinity to click on a particular type of hero image and this type of content. And you're going to run multiple A/B tests on all these different hypotheses, either at the same time or over a period of time. And then you're going to see which one of these come to fruition based on your assumptions and based on your overall strategy. When you actually look at the results of an A/B test and actually identify the test metrics, this is what's very important. First, you need to define what the one key metric is in advance. Know what you want to test and measure it, and this is your primary KPI. Okay, it's not always going to be conversion. Now, conversion is a golden metric in web analytics, don't get me wrong, but perhaps all you care about is new customer acquisition. How many new customers are coming to our site? Perhaps you have a declining category. You want to increase sales on a particular category and develop an A/B method for that. Whatever it is, identify it up front. Okay, this is what's going to help your A/B test tool say a confidence level and give you a winning score based on that key metric. But then you're also going to have a handful of other metrics, secondary metrics and insights that can be derived if the test results warrant it. So if you see other metrics being influenced or other metrics, kind of being impacted, you can take that and still build out strategies with it. To allow for those secondary metrics and insights to allow for further investigation and testing. Well, perhaps your primary metric was bounce rate and you had a winning score, but you also saw an increase in new traffic. Okay, well, we did with this A/B test decrease our bounce rate, but we're also seeing new customers come in because of our marketing campaign. So I'm going to build another test and make the new customer acquisition, the new customer count, new visitor count, whatever, be that KPI. That's what it's all about. Nothing will ever be 100%, but use the confidence level to indicate a success or win. You're never going to have 100% of all your users in any given test, in any group, uh, gravitate towards one thing because it's just never like that. So you have to look at the confidence level, usually 90, 95%. Some A/B testing common mistakes, and I'm going to leave you with this and have you go ahead and read the rest of this PowerPoint on some other kind of tips and tricks within Google for A/B testing. But to sum up this lecture tonight, here are some common mistakes that you want to avoid. Not planning your optimization roadmap. So for example, build out that matrix, build out what is it you're going to want to test and hypothesize on. What is your quarterly strategy, for example, your monthly strategy, whatever. What are you working towards? You don't want to just set up tests just for fun, right? You have certain strategic goals as a business. So identify what that looks like and identify early on what you want to test. Using unbalanced traffic. What this means is you actually get to set up a percentage of individuals to see one test versus another, or in the group split, A and B, or multivariate. You don't want to do 80% then 20% generally. You want to give a good 50-50 split. So you get the right amount of people to have a balanced traffic, because you can skew your results if you have too many people, looking at one campaign. And then if you test too much together, don't test too much, okay? Test tangible things. You can't test everything on your website all at once, because what happens with that, it skews the information. You're not gathering that valuable traffic data and that behavioral data to focus in on that 1 or 2 or 3 areas of the website that you want to optimize. So focus, make sure it's very focused testing, and ignoring statistical significance. The data is the data is the data. If it's 90, 95% confidence level, it is accurate. So don't end a test early. Sometimes in marketing, you get impatient. Tests could take a week, a month. It depends on how much traffic it takes to make your test successful or not, or to produce the final confidence level. So if you're at 60 or 70%, I've worked for places where we get to that 70% and there's a senior leader who's like, well, that's enough. That's enough confidence. Well, maybe it's trending that way, but truly try to finish your tests all the way through to see its ultimate result. Okay. Now, if you can't afford that because of the need of the business, I understand that, but get as high of a confidence level as possible to claim your winner. Thank you so much for your time on this tonight. I hope you found it enjoyable to talk about segmentation, how to analyze your segments, how to build out strategies around customer journey building and A/B testing, because these are key digital marketing strategies to optimize your website and your marketing efforts. Have a great day.